You've heard about the bus to Badassville. What happens when you find yourself aboard? Just what you'd hoped for. You will be given proven skills and drills that you use to flip your fears with powerful thinking ideas and take charge of a thoroughly badass attitude. B.A.D.A.S.S is an acronym, and each Wednesday, Kelly shares tips, tools, and information about how you can become licensed to be badass too. Hey, Badass, how you doing?
Oh, my goodness, Bobby Ocean, it sure is good to hear your voice again and play you in production again. Hey, everybody, Kelly Orchard, the B.A.D.A.S.S certifier, back again for this Wednesday Wisdom. Yes, we took a break for the entire month of May, but I tell you, I got a story to tell you. And so today, actually this entire month of May and Wednesday Wisdom, I'm going backwards a little bit. I'm going to the S in Badass because that's what I was going to do for the month of May, and then I had to kind of take a mental health break, and I'll explain that to you. You kind of know, if you're listening and you've been paying attention, you know that I moved my office. I had a major upheaval, but now I'm getting back on track, and part of that is stay the course. That's the S in Badass. So I've got something to tell you about that, and it means persevere, learn to be flexible, practice some gratitude, be nimble, and then learn to accept the pause. So this is what's happening on this Wednesday Wisdom as I, Kelly Orchard, the Badass certifier, certify badasses one podcast at a time. I've got skills and drills for certified badasses, and welcome back.
A badass perseveres with patience, is flexible with their dreams, and stays the course.
All right, so first, let me tell you, this office move has been quite a journey for me. So thank you for sticking around while I share, and that I've had to use my own badass tools, my badass program to navigate my way through all of this. It's been a massive upheaval of my business and my personal life. You know, the desktop computer, okay, that's a massive beast for me. A couple of years ago, I did have to upgrade it. I had some computer friends who do video production and stuff like that tell me how proud they were of me for burning out my processor as I was doing videos. So I had to get a new computer, and I got one of those gaming ones that has a huge, massive amount of memory and speed and, you know, a really fast processor. So this thing is a beast, and it's been in my home for a long time. Actually, I've worked from home for 20 years. But, you know, I had to move my office out of my home. And for the past year, it's also been at the foot of my bed. So this is a big move for me, and it was necessary for me to remove this production beast out of my home and into a new workplace. Why? Because I'm a functioning alcoholic. That's why. I love writing, my podcasting, creating programs, and consulting and coaching. I love every bit about what I do. Well, except the technical stuff. Sometimes I don't like the building of the websites and all that other stuff. And the math, I don't like the math. But it's like, but basically, I would just do it all day long and all day night if somebody didn't stop me. So as my personal life had these major changes over the last year, it became necessary for me to remove my work from my home so that I could have more separation. I've successfully navigated the work-home life balance for the past 20 years. I know how it's done. I know how to maintain productivity. But the energy in my home is different now with my parents here, and I don't want to be consumed by work while I care for them. It's different when I was raising teenagers. The last 20 years, my adult children are married and have children of their own. And so when I was working from home while they were teenagers, it worked really, really well for me to be working from home because I was completely available to them. Now the energy is different with my aging parents living there. I can't hold myself up in my room all the time and be working. The energy is different. So I made the deliberate decision to remove work from home so I'm not tempted to just work all the time. And I'll say this, I'm already in love with this new space. In fact, today, right now, this is the first podcast that I am recording from my new space, and it's given me a whole new, fresh perspective. I do intend to spend a lot of time in this space, so it had to be, for me, just right. So I'm kind of like a badass Goldilocks. The office is cozy. and my walls do feel like a hug. And if you're listening to the podcast, thank you. If you want to see some video or footage of how my office looks, I've posted it on my social media accounts and on my YouTube channel. So you can kind of check out the video that I did not too recently, actually just a couple weeks ago, with Jamie and Kim from Michelle's Place. Well, okay, wait. Jamie is not from Michelle's Place. Jamie is the insurance lady, but she also is a tenant here at Michelle's Place. And Kim Garish is the director of Michelle's Place. And I share in my email, it shared that Michelle's Place is a cancer resource center. Now, when I first began my journey to become a psychotherapist or work in the mental health or the helping field, my initial vision was based out of my own personal experience with my heart crisis. Now, believe it or not, it's been 15 years this summer since I suffered from heart failure. And it wasn't just a one-time event. I mean, that heart failure led to a 2.5-year journey to regain my health. So there was that whole 2.5 years that I was falling down and really distraught and not knowing what to do. Once I was cured, thankfully, very humbly, thankfully, once I was cured, that began my journey to want to become a helper, and that started grad school. Well, my initial vision, I had no idea, no clue, but initially what I really wanted to do was be some sort of a resource for people who struggled with some sort of chronic illness that derailed their life and help their family as well. Medical, family, therapy. And I am really thrilled to say that I'm going to be able to do that here with Michelle's Place. See, one of the things that was important to me was I've always, for the most part, been self-employed. In the 40 years, 40 years that I've been working, in a career field, I've probably only worked for somebody else maybe 5 of those years. The rest of the time it was, working for my dad, hardly counts. Working with my dad as my business partner, that is self-employed, trust me. And, working as a licensed psychotherapist and a coach and an author now. So working for somebody really wouldn't have worked out for me to go into some sort of a resource center and follow along with their programs that they have in place. So here, because I'm a tenant and I'm going to collaborate with the forces at Michelle's Place and complement programs they've already got going, I'm so excited. And that's why I'm sharing this with you on Wednesday Wisdom, because, as you start to rebuild your life, if your life has been derailed, if you're listening to this podcast, more than likely that's why you're here. You've got to have patience and you've got to stay the course. And I tell you, it's like my initial heart failure was 15 years ago. And that's not to say that I've just now arrived, success overnight. No, it's been a journey. And it has had its share of successes, but its share of disappointments. I really began the journey to becoming a licensed psychotherapist and finished grad school, and that was only 10 years ago. So in 10 years, then it still took me a couple of years to get licensed. And so I've been licensed now 8 years. And I'll tell you, it's really been an intriguing journey. I have learned so much and I have met so many awesome people. And now that I'm here in this new office and I've got a fresh perspective, I wasn't really, so the thing is I wasn't really deliberately trying to keep it a secret that I was going to a cancer resource center. But the transition itself had a lot of moving parts because literally I had obstacles to navigate. I was moving from my home office. So that was a big, huge deal for me to just basically I had to decide what things were important enough to stay at home and what really had to come to my office space, because not everything needed to come here, obviously, and there wouldn't have been enough room for storage. And so I'm reorganizing my closet, my bedroom, my workspace. But meanwhile, I'm also having to navigate with my clients who were used to coming to see me at this one location for however long they've been with me. And now I'm having them transition to a new location as well. Meanwhile, now that I have more availability during the week, I can spread out my client base to, instead of working 10-hour or 12-hour days a couple days a week, I can actually just get myself to a regular 8 or 9-hour work day, Monday through Friday. So there was a lot of moving parts, a lot of obstacles to navigate. This was a massive upheaval of my professional world. Like I said, I have successfully worked from home, out of my home office, for more than 20 years, whether it was FCC compliance consulting for radio and television stations, writing my books, my blogs, my articles, my programs, my papers, producing my Apple a Day podcast, and most recently, this podcast for Successful Badassery. I've navigated it from home for many years. Then when I became licensed psychotherapist, I leased shared office space as I built my practice. Of course, I don't see clients in my home. So now that my home life has shifted, I've committed to working outside of my home. It was necessary for me to separate my work from my home life in order to maintain a healthy balance in my life. I knew the space would need to meet not just my needs for everything that I do, but also be comforting and welcoming for my clients. You know, I've shared this story with you. About a year ago, I needed some time to recover and rejuvenate and refresh from a difficult season. In fact, it's been difficult for me as well. You know, my personal life was turned upside down. I share with you that my parents now live with me, and some of the sharing that I've also included in that is that, you know, I've lost 2 brothers, which means my parents have lost 2 sons. And they have memorabilia and artifacts from my brother's lives. And so that came along with them. And so there's been a lot of old wounds that have been stirred up, a lot of trauma and tragedy that have kind of resurfaced, you know, plus I'm looking at my parents who are aging now. It's not like I'm raising them to go live out in the world like I did with my family, my teenagers, my children. This is a completely different perspective. So as all of this was happening, you know, my kids had told me, and I'll share this with a little bit later. My kids said, "You've got to go on vacation. This is an emotional snowball that's occurring with you." And so, at the height of COVID, I decided to go to Sedona, and found exactly what I needed, and then some. I found my center. I found my peace. I rediscovered my joy in the midst of the height of a lot of emotional trauma. So it came to focusing on the design for my new office. I knew I wanted it to appear as if I had a picture window looking out at the red rocks of Sedona. And yes, it takes over the entire space, but I gotta say, it's pretty badass. So when I announced the location, I wanted to do it right, and I really wanted to have some help, which is understanding why this is such a badass connection. I actually did a fun little video with the Michelle's Place team, and you can catch that on my YouTube channel as well, or any of my social media sites. So that's a little bit about I wanted to encourage you to rediscover who you are, and that's what this is for Wednesday Wisdom. I'm sharing a little bit of my story. Yes, the stay the course, that's the S in badass, but you also need to be flexible and learn to be nimble. And so although I'm staying the course with my badass program and my badass plans, and more on that later, I had to be flexible and nimble as it became very critical and very crucial that I move my workspace out of my home space. Now, I know that seems a little counterintuitive to some of you who may be working and living at home now, because that's what you wanted to do. I've committed to working outside of my home, and it was necessary for me to separate my work from my home life in order to maintain that balance. I knew the space had to meet my needs, but also for my clients. So the Sedona kind of helped me create that. And I did do some fun little video. Now coming up, I guess, and now it's like, you know, I'm trying to revamp also how I think about this podcast for Successful Badassery. You know, positive psychology changes everything, and I can stay the course. And I'm just wondering how I'm going to continue to maintain 3 days a week with Mustang Monday, Wednesday Wisdom, and Fruitful Friday. You know, I provide you with simple tools to grow your purpose, grow your relationships, grow your success. Now, success means investing in your team. Negativity and bad attitudes are going to cost you time, money, and peace, resulting in stress and anxiety. You've got to stop the madness. I choreograph fun while implementing tools you can use right now and continue to use to flip the format on negativity. I bring a little sanity and kindness in a world where positivity, confidence, and compassion are in short supply. I've learned to navigate the rough waters of life, and I've gained mad skills in business, a force to be reckoned with, and I empower you to be that way too. I altered my own destiny and designed the life I wanted. Am I finished? Not by a long shot. I feel I still have more to accomplish, more to dream, more to create. Do you feel the same? Well, we're going to flip the way we think about your fear of change. Now, we can improve our self-knowledge. That's the tip I want to give you on this Wednesday wisdom. Burnout, depression, anxiety, that was already prevalent before this COVID stuff. Now I'm teaching you to be bold, be brave, be confident, be badass. Confidence and positive attitude are key ingredients to success in business, relationships, life. But it isn't easy to build, manage, and maintain when life throws storm upon storm. Once again, life has derailed us and we have to choreograph a new dance. What are the problems that you're facing today? Have you lost your job or your business? Are you really struggling financially? Maybe your business is flourishing and you're feeling a little guilty about it. Or maybe you're overworked and overwhelmed and it's too much, or you can't find the help you need. Maybe you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you just can't do anything at all. Maybe all of the things that you had worked towards have completely vanished. I've been there. I've been there again. I too have had a lot of adjustments and had to pivot my plans. So I created a new one. I'm still a certified badass. Now it's time for you to be one too. So like I said, I've had 40 years of reflections, or reflections of 40 years, however you want to take it. Once upon a time, I had a radio station. I tell the story in my workshops and actually in a lot of my videos about how the station went on the air in 1980, the summer before my senior year in high school. I've told that story in the very, very beginning. It's like, and once you hear my stories, you understand why I'm badass. But here's the thing. I know that you're badass too, because you probably have years to reflect upon and look back where you've been and how you've grown since then. We always neglect to do that, to see how we've grown. So we're not going to be looking back and reflecting on the bad times. It's about looking back on the good times and understanding that you got through the hard times and you're smarter and wiser because of it. And that's what makes you badass. I'm kind of so sick of some of the stuff that I had to pick up the pieces and figure out for myself. Like, for example, automation. That was something that I picked up as a necessity. It was part of my job. At the family radio station, we were automated live assist, which is like, it was like a big computer system, where it was just like how you play Spotify now. We were automated live assist, but I remember sitting there typing in the code for the automation system. It was an IGM, not IBM. It was an IGM system. And for years, it's like the automation system, because it was kind of old. My dad would be able to get it from other major market radio stations. And so it was equipment that handed down. So after a while, some of those parts would start to wear down and the automation system would break, and we'd have to wait for the appropriate parts to arrive, or we'd have to go get it because it was kind of getting old technology, and we were small market radio. We didn't have the budget to renew and purchase all new equipment and billing systems. And there was just a lot that was going on, a lot of technologies. And we'd have to hunker down sometimes to reprogram the entire automation system. When it came to the traffic and billing systems, I was the one who was doing that work. So I was the one that determined the system that we purchased and how we used it. These were all computer stuff back in 35 years ago. And I had to learn all of these things. The thing is that I didn't really like that. I didn't like the technology. I had to design the logs and I had to train anybody who came in after me. So when it comes time now to doing what I do, I can handle it. I can do all of these things. But really what I want to do is delegate and teach somebody else how to do it. I've gone through all those trainings in the marketing funnels and the webinars and the course creation and the email marketing, that you name it. I've done it, learning how and studying and practicing. But you know what? I don't want to do it by their way. They tried to tell me that I had to have a niche. I thought a niche would just get me into trouble. They told me I had to pick one population, but I didn't want to be that limited. I wanted to work with badasses. So how would I determine what badass I would work with? And how would I determine what is not a badass? Better yet, who is badass? It could be you. I know it's me. So let's get you certified. So I got that step-by-step plan for you to rediscover your badass self. And the thing is that I've likened it kind of like a scavenger hunt. Just keep listening to the podcast and I'll give you new stuff all the time. You know, once upon a time, I had a radio station. I could create whatever I wanted to. It sort of spoiled me. Now I'm just a radio girl without a station, without a home. But that's okay. We're going to come up with other stuff. So as I wrap up this Wednesday wisdom for you, I just kind of want to give you something to help improve your school tools and, basically get yourself going. I'm getting going again. I took a month off from the podcast and now I'm back at it. Here we are. It's June. We're following the S in B.A.D.A.S.S, the first S, which means Steadfastly Stay the Course. Now, people have been calling me badass for quite some time. Clearly, from my definition, I've been through a lot. I've been through the storms of life, and I've gotten through them. And I don't give up. I don't believe the storms are over either. More recently, it's become evident that it was time for my parents to move in with me. They're 83 now, and they're aging and they're starting to become a little frail. So while they're here in their later stages of life, one thing after another kept happening, and that was more traumatic. I've shared the details with you. I didn't really consider at the time how my responses were affecting my adult children and those around me. My kids are all in their late 20s and early 30s, and they looked at me and said, "Mom, you really truly are badass because this is impacting you a whole lot more than anybody else." Then I reflected on it and I thought about it because internally I was terrified, mortified, traumatized. Yeah, I'm freaking out. But I've been through these kinds of traumas and dilemmas before in my life. And I've known that I have a calm exterior. I'm very stoic, even though inside I might be completely losing my mind. My practice has taught me how to manage those emotions. And I know that I had to stuff them down for the time being. For a little while, I had to hold them at bay until I could properly disperse of them, which is what I did, like I said, when I went to Sedona. Badass is about a lifestyle. It's a concept. And I take you through this program because Badass is an acronym. So let me tell you first how it was developed. On Friday, for Fruitful Friday. And I'll see you then. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember, hey, this is the time for you to get back on track. And actually, we've all had a setback. But you know what? If you choose to learn from it, if you choose to do something good with it, then the comeback is stronger than the setback. Now, that's right. So come back for me on Friday and I'll tell you about the Badass acronym and how it all came to be. I've got some special deal for you. I really do. I've just launched it. And the License to Be Badass program, all the courses are up and ready to go. And I'd love for you to hop on the bus to Badassville.
Badass Attitudes, licensed here, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Grab your Badass Habits ebook. Get started on your badass journey. Go to licensedtobebadass.com.